going to talk about BPAC, Basalt Public Arts Commission, BOST, our Parks, Open Space and Trails Committee, and our Green Team. So, Michelle, are you the...
I am. I'm
Okay,
going to
ask
be
her.
speaking at you for a while here.
here today?
So these are the draft work plans for our three main citizen commissions. We're going to start with POST. And your Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission is chaired by Jason Groves. Includes Julie Kolar, Paul Hiltz, Sarah Shaw, Reed Howie, Lahia Bonilla, and Amy Beasley. So on the next slide, or two, or three, here we are. So the POST work plan is broken into 4 sections: parks, trails, maintenance, and partnerships. And things that were achieved in the 2023 work plan include, little click of the mouse there, gives us the Gisela Few Skate Park, which was completed early spring, a total replacement there. The Swinging Bridge Park with solar lights along the trail, native plantings, and irrigation installed. This created a safer connection, more rewarding experience for pedestrians to walk between the school parking lot and Midland Avenue. The Whitewater Park, it might be a little bit premature to have that green click on there right now, but it's underway. It's a Picken County project that we're light partners in, but it might be completed this year. We also completed lots of smaller volunteer projects with the Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, including improvements to the trail around Ponderosa Park. And then our town arborist, Chris Beiser, was able to complete his list of town tree projects. And we are in the final throes of completing our long-range financial stability plan for maintaining our parks and figuring out what we can afford to build in the future if we want to, or those sorts of things. The next click will show you things that we have started or will be working on and continuing to work on into 2024. Maintenance of DeRocks Park, that is scheduled to happen hopefully this fall. We will see. Albany Park, the replacement of the playground is currently in the design stage, and we anticipate bringing a contract back with the recommended design for that playground before the end of this year. It is super exciting, and I contemplated putting a teaser in here for you guys, but I didn't. You'll have to wait, but it's very exciting. Midland Ave, as we know, is still ongoing, but POST will weigh in on the pedestrian amenities as we go through the value engineering process on that project. 7-Eleven to schools connection, you've probably seen the the painted crosswalks there. That was actually a BPAC project, but the first step into what's going to be a bigger improvement plan to that intersection in that general area, creating some more safety and traffic control there. That'll go into 2024 as well. And then the Willets Lane plan is, we're going out to, we'll be advertising for planning and design consultants, and we're combining the Willets Lane plan and the wayfinding signage into one plan with the intent that these two plans are meant to connect East and West Basalt together. So we'll be going out to bid for those in the next couple weeks and coming back hopefully with a contract in January. So starting that process soon. So those yellow arrows will move on, yep. And so here's what kind of on a schedule the 2024 work plan looks like. We're not looking to do any major construction. That's always the question I get as part of this 2024 work plan. Instead, we're trying to get the planning components under control and then maybe do some temporary installations. If it's more pavement painting or temporary landscaping installations, some planters, some whatnot, to kind of feel what actual improvements might look like, or test them out. That would be something we could do. So that includes some improvements along Willets Lane, Some more possible temporary installations along Confluence Park. That's the park down by the rivers by 7-Eleven. And then some actual installations, of course, we'll see along the Midland Streetscape Plan. On the bottom down here is Cliff's Hillside Playground, and that's been a lingering project over the last couple of years. But what we're hoping is that in 2024, we will have learned some cool stuff after our Albany Park playground improvement that we might want to carry over to this site. So I think there'll be action on that this year in 24, but we want to learn from our experience in Albany Park before we do that one. And just in case, for those who aren't familiar, Cliff's Hillside Playground is on Homestead Drive. It's a cute, tiny little neighborhood park. Look, that was really fast. That is what's going on for Post. Any questions about Post before I move on?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place for this, but I have seen a very serious uptick in littering in our parks. And so I was thinking maybe there's some additional signage, some bilingual signage, some threats. I don't know what it is.
Any park in particular or just general?
Well, I notice it the most Confluence Park, Emma Bridge, the little musical park, and then the garden there. Because that's what I walk to and from town.
We heard that recently in that area over there, and then like kind of down along the river and whatnot. So I agree. I think we need to put a little more attention over there, but then a little better signage. I think would go a long way. So we can do that.
Maybe reach out to the school.
Yeah.
Michelle, could you go back to the slide with one slide ago, the diagram? I would like to suggest that under the Durox Park,
It's
it's Leroy, so it's Durox. So I have observed for about 5 years now that we have a growing sort of disregard by the whitewater rafting community for use and enjoyment of the Willits bike path. And Brian and I have talked about it. It's my information that we're the only municipality in the valley that doesn't have some kind of framework for fees and ground rules for use of public rights of way. And it's just kind of y'all come and it's a free fall for out there. And I say it is more the norm during the summer that you have to either get off your bike or wind around these guys. And the attitude has shifted to the point where bikers are a real annoyance to them, you know, and it's a bike path and it's designed for pedestrians and bikers, not for private enterprise to stage. And you know, more often the norm now is everybody gets off the river there from the upper, you know, Snowmass run, and so the rafts, just 16-foot high sides, just hang out on the sidewalk while everybody's cracking beers and having a great time. And there's just zero recognition that this is a public path, and they're not invited to use it for staging, getting off. So, at any rate, I think it might be a good framework under Durox Park to address that.
Yes, and that specific issue is anticipated to be actually part of the Willits Lane plan. And the concept of potentially permitting commercial activity there is something we're doing a little bit of research on as part of the long-term maintenance plan of the parks, and how that's been implemented in other locations and such. But yeah, it's on our radar.
You know, there's no intimation here that it's not a great enterprise and a great fun thing, and they work part of the valley and everything else, but let's, you know, be fair about the use of public rights of way here.
Yeah, absolutely.
what's the state of play for Lake Christine and partnership with CPW? I mean, it's kind of a bit of a loaded question, but I mean, it's the only one not checked up there. So I'm just curious what, where we're at as far as this board.
I think all I can say to that is that I was at the same presentation you were at.
Nothing more to it.
Yeah, I think as far as Lake Christine itself, the state had hired a consultant earlier this summer. They were doing some investigation on the dam, and that report is imminent. That is, if the state doesn't already have it. So I think we should probably hear in the not too distant future if that dam is going to be usable to bring water levels back up. So I think we're sort of in the state of limbo at the moment, but I think we'll be able to bring more information back to you in the next month or two, and we can certainly do that. And that's really all I know.
And the reason I bring it up, would be great if that was moved from the inactive part of the post portfolio into the active part. It's such a great asset and everything, and just naturally here in the community.
Agreed. And we've continuously, kind of put a placeholder in the budget for it. So we can bring that back to you when we know a little bit more.
Do we know when the Whitewater Park will be open fully? Or why it's not open fully?
No. I'm not sure why the walkway hasn't been
The blatant
open.
disregard for the closed walkway?
Right, I think people are using it because it seems intact. And so James, have you had an update on that recently?
Yeah, the last update that I received is that they still had some work to do on some areas that they needed to excavate further to make the footing and the boardwalk sit better on it. So they weren't happy with the way it was kind of situated in a couple locations, and they were working on that. That was the last update I got, and that was a couple weeks ago. So that was the reason they were keeping it closed temporarily.
Curious minds want to know.
Yeah, and I think, I believe Chief Knott has a meeting later this week with them, likely in regard to emergency access for sort of the Whitewater Park proper. We don't know for sure, so he'll report back on that. So there still seems to be momentum, but it is just kind of moving slowly, as we know. So, but we'll update you on that one as soon as we can get some information too.
I have
Okay.
a post question.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if the density in Willits is a bit more dense than was set out in the master plan? And if so, does that warrant another look at how much open space we have and possibly designating some more open space?
I don't think that it's been built beyond the open space requirements for all of the land use approvals that were granted, but I'm sure it could feel that way as it's changing, which might be something as a part of the discussion in the Willits Lane plan about how to have that space feel like a more usable space or a more protected space going forward.
And I don't know, in there between, say, the rugby field, Linear Park, and the parks that we have in Willits Town Center proper, that there is more land to just have as pure open space, because we do have some passive open space that can't be developed for more active rec type of thing. But are you
I was just curious.
seeing like too many people in one area
No,
on the
no.
open space or anything?
No, I just wanted to be sure that like the density and the designated open space on par with one another.
Okay, all right, yeah,
Just checking in.
yeah, fair enough.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to BPAC.
Great.
All right. Let's see here. So we are really lucky. BPAC, we have several members in the audience here tonight. It's chaired by Karen Andrade, Josh Mueller, who is here, Liz Bell, Britton White, who is here, Jack Tremblath, Colleen Irving, and potentially tonight you will also appoint Chris Mullen, who is also here. So really I'm going to be presenting you more of BPAC's accomplishments. In recent weeks, BPAC has been busy with current activities such as the streetscape murals and whatnot, so we have not spoken directly about a work plan for this group. That being said, the accomplishments and the work that we have underway that will continue into '24 really foreshadow what is likely to be their work plan. So I think we're okay to continue on here. Accomplishments in 2023 include securing the Gale Falwell sculpture that will be installed in the River Park. We just actually met with her today. This is not the sculpture, but these are reminiscent of what's coming. Construction will start, or installation measures will start in the next potentially 10 days to start getting her pieces engineered into place over there to the south of Free Range. Super exciting. So that should be in and finished hopefully by the first week of October. That's been underway, and then when James clicks again, you'll see we've accomplished mural programs. I don't know how many clicks it'll take, probably another one. Yep, maybe another one. Oh yeah, so we just finished our highly successful Midland mural competition. Here's the entry by Jeremy Velasquez. You click again, you'll see we had one student entry who is Finn Johnson, and he created a single line piece, and if we click again, we'll see it. And BPAC recently discussed the opportunity that his participation in this program creates for having more youth-centered events and installations of art. So we're excited to use that to go forward that way. The last mural that'll pop up, for now I didn't put them all on here, hopefully you saw them all when they were on Midland, is a mural by Kristen Hicks, who ended up being the People's Choice Award. And we are working with her right now for the installation of this very family-friendly mural to be located at the pool. We had several other very successful mural and artists participate, and we're going to be working with other property owners that came to us during this competition looking to have murals installed on their buildings. So that was a surprise interest that came up, which has shifted our process here a little bit on going forward for the better. So we'll be back in the future on where exactly those are going to be placed in which buildings on Midland Avenue.
Was that one the top oak getter?
On the right?
Hmm?
The one on the right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Alpine Bank,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. Yep, let's see. So this year BPAC also had a very successful turnout in grant requests. We had the largest number of requests the program history has had, actually beyond our allowed budget. So we'll have an update with those requests and those recipients actually at your next council meeting to bring that forward. But that's really exciting that we're moving into that. Remaining BPAC work, it's kind of up on the top corner of this slide. Midland Avenue, you'll see the trend here obviously, Midland Avenue Streetscape Project, Willets Lane, and this Arts Capital Plan. What's really important here is that this long-term capital arts improvement plan really encompasses all of the things. The Midland Avenue Streetscape Future for Arts, art possibilities along Willets Lane, and really everywhere within town. This Arts Capital Plan is actually part of the charter of BPAC, so we didn't invent it. It's something that is in their bylaws, that's requested. And frankly, I think we have a lot of momentum going forward with just having the public events we've had recently and a lot of interest. I think you'll see later tonight on the agenda, we have a donation coming in from a citizen to help support our program, so it's very exciting. This 10-year capital improvement program plan is a huge undertaking. And when James clicks on the next slide, or two, or maybe three, I got a little excited doing my PowerPoint. These are just some examples, but we're going kind of section by section and neighborhood by neighborhood throughout town. And if you keep clicking, James, just kind of dissecting each area and what the opportunities could be and where you walk and where the public spaces are and where, just keep clicking because there's a lot of them. You know, where you might, if you're a pedestrian walking through, where you might experience it. I think that's the last one. As a bike rider, all of these places to have kind of these little wonderful moments of coming upon art that's accessible to anybody. In places, whether they're along our trails, our parks, or whatnot. So they're doing a lot of work going through and really being thoughtful about that, and then prioritizing policies and sizes for these locations as well. So that's going to be a pretty big undertaking that will take at least the first quarter, if not half, of 2024. But that really could be a way that also enhances the connectivity of our community from east to west Basalt, having this kind of continuity and whatnot of art. So that's the BPAC work plan of the moment that they still have to discuss. Any questions on that?
No questions, just one more of a comment. I really thought that mural, the mural program contest was outstanding. It was really, it was cool to see the level of entries. Like, they were like genuine, real artists. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I was so worried about the weather.
It was amazing, and we had so much positive feedback both from the community and also from the artists. It was kind of phenomenal to get some national level artists to come and participate in sweet little Basalt. It was really kind of overwhelming. So we're really excited about how to move forward and get those artists involved on Midland. All right, anybody from BPAC want to add anything? All right.
Thank you for park programming too.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. All right. And then last but not least is Green Team. Our Green Team is chaired by Charlie Eckert. Members include Doug McDonald, who is here. I do that every time. Doug Goldsmith. I really want to call him the wrong name, but it's more fun. Sorry. That's old. I thought I fixed that. Apologies. Mike Steiner and Eileen Fagan. We also had 2 students on our Green Team this year before they graduated from high school, who was India Bouchard and Connor Hoffman. They were a huge add to the commission, and so we are looking to have new youth members join this year and are actively working with Mr. Eric Bozick on getting some additional members. The Green Team work plan is also in progress. 2 of our voting members are traveling this month. So we have had a first look at this, and there may be a couple of tiny revisions coming back in October, but I think this is generally where we're going. The Green Team work plan is in 4 categories: tracking goals, public education, built environment, and transportation. Click, yep. In the categories of tracking and public education, I'll click one more click here. We've accomplished our annual community events, including the recycling event. We have the upcoming leaf drop. and such. Items we're continuing to work on include promoting alternative transportation as part of the Midland Streetscape project and future opportunities in Willits. We are also continuing to work on what exactly it means and the best methods for measuring our greenhouse gas emissions. There are so many variables and so many different ways to measure and to record and to compare against what we've done historically. There's also some discussion of whether it's useful to actually track annually or to wait and do that every 3 to 5 years. So we're working with our Eagle and Picken County partners on the most efficient methods to get those results in. What we know is that Basalt has been at the forefront of many of the new clean energy standards, and we're still implementing those. And then we'll click to our next slide. So those are things we're still working on. And we had a great recycling event, one of our most successful, which I think we'll come back with some neat metrics on at a future meeting. I don't have those today, but I know Sarah has them. In our other categories, built environment standards and transportation alternatives. We'll have one more click. The things that we've achieved, as you know, we updated our sustainable building regulations, adopted the 2021 IECC for moving towards all electric. We're still implementing our core rebate program to promote businesses and residents in Basalt to do energy efficient upgrades. We continue to be highly successful, and one of my favorite cheerleading moments that we are the best user of WeCycle so far. We'll see if Carbondale gives us a run for our money. WeCycle does a really neat monthly report on how many pounds of CO2 are being reduced by people using our WeCycle, and it was averaging around 6,000 pounds a month during the high months last year, and it's gone almost over 9 to 10 this year. So WeCycle is super efficient, effective. We also ran our e-bike rebate program, which was marginally successful. It was kind of a trial run here. We have learned some things, and we'll probably do it again and make some modifications to expand the network of where you can buy your bike and that sort of thing. Things we'll be working on that will continue into next year. Yep. The solar capital project, we had hoped that this would be constructed and happening this year, but due to kind of workforce issues that have been plaguing all of the industries, this got slowed down. So not a staff, not a town issue so much as just kind of a contractor issue that happened at the last minute. We think that's resolved. And then we'll be looking at doing, if you do one more click there, James, the potential for expanding on some modest scale our electric vehicle infrastructure, and maybe even some e-bike charging stations as part of maybe the Willits plan or the Streetscape plan. Okay, and so then kind of the Green Team's big item this year is working to achieve bike-friendly community certification. It's a national level certification. Many communities throughout Colorado have this. The goal here is to promote alternative transportation. So we know that transportation is a huge creation of greenhouse gas emissions here. This will of course be done in tandem with POST. Examples of what it means and how you become a bike-friendly certified community are things like creating bike priority and travel lanes, or designating bike lanes, or signage, or those sorts of things based on whatever is available in your restricted areas. Clear signage, appropriate trail connections. It's a lot of planning and design issues that are naturally going to be in the Willits Lane plan and in the wayfinding plan. But we want to continue those and have some continuity between East and West Basalt. It is difficult to achieve, and there are levels that can be achieved. So they have everything. It's kind of that bronze, silver, gold, platinum area. And what is pretty typical is that communities don't get certified during their first application because it's a lot to get there. But having that goal will help, the intention is that it'll help make bicycling between each side of town feel safer and more inviting, and just reduce car trips. So we'll be back with that. We'll see how much we can get, how close we can get to actually getting the application in itself. Pretty big lift. But exciting. The last thing, sorry, James, on that last schedule on the left there, potentially doing some partnerships with the chamber on Bike to Work Day and other kind of bike-centric activities just to kind of help kick that off. And then lastly, I think this actually came from one of the council members, but the state is starting a program to help incentivize HOAs to look at energy efficient rebates for multifamily buildings. So what exactly that looks like is TBD, but we're following that and tracking it to see if that's something we can help promote. So, and then that's it, until you have your questions ready.
I saw up there where you didn't say community composting. Any
Yes.
things on that?
It is on there, and so that's something we're also doing some research with other communities on what are the options for that. Do we subsidize a program? Do we find a provider that's willing to, we're trying to look into how and what that means. Yep.
I had the same question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that's a top priority. We just have to figure out what our options are there.
For the Bike Town certification, or just in general, I guess stepping back, I notice sometimes when you ride around, older places don't necessarily have bike racks. It's kind of hit or miss. Is that on your radar as far as trying to see what we can do to incentivize places to get bike racks where there aren't bike racks now, so you're not like blocking the trees or signs or doing kind of weird things on sidewalks with bikes?
Exactly. Part of that certification to get there is we need to show that we're prioritizing bikes as an alternative to travel. And so kind of highlighting those spaces. Where's an opportunity for better bike parking? And not only that, but how will you achieve that? So whether we work with the business owner on purchasing those bike racks, or whether it's part of the town inventory to install them or whatnot, but really getting down to those details on how to implement it.
And the other question I had was around the rebates. Have you guys considered using them for those kits to retrofit existing bikes? Maybe that might get some uptick in getting some more e-bikes basically in the end, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we were initially trying to use the rebate program to both incentivize people to ride bikes, but also to support the local businesses while we're under construction. And I think there was some of that going on, but of course everybody likes to shop wherever it is that they shop, which is not always right here. And figuring out how to do these rebates so that they're not just for new bikes, whether it's also for older bikes or for retrofits, is something we're trying to learn. In the Eagle Valley, they've really expanded their rebate program, so we're going to be looking to them for some help on the policies to implement that.
Thanks.
On the metrics, I know I'm gonna be a total broken record here, but I would still like to see, any kind of report from the Arbany pool retrofits, the addition of the solar, what's happening with the heat pumps. I know that there was some tweaking of the mechanical systems that's been going on for a while now, but like, if we're ever at a point, I mean, I know we can at least do the solar. So I think it would be cool for the community to see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I would just, I'm sure this is going on for the green team, and it's, I guess, a question, not a comment, but the question would be, is the green team staying in touch with Holy Cross Electric? Are we following their sort of progress on the path to net zero or the path to essentially clean energy goals. And the reason I bring it up is that, you know, there's been a lot of sort of a commentary that, you know, we're doing our PV project as part of the Basalt Forward program and doing well with it, and that's well along. And, you know, we keep thinking about more photovoltaics and renewable energy options. And some of the discussion is that, you know, Holy Cross really has this figured out. And, you know, do they need us? Are we really looking at the right thing? These are kind of the questions. What provoked it for me was that, you know, early in the spring, there was some speculation that Lake Powell may not actually be able to generate energy. If we hadn't had the winter that we had this last year, we may have had no turbines spinning at Lake Powell. And my recollection is that was a big part of the Holy Cross portfolio for renewables. So, anyway, the question is, are those guys looking at that, and can we be sort of educated about, you know, whether we're doing the right thing, whether we're looking at the right thing, whether we're doing all that we can do to backfill sort of energy demand in Basalt.
Yeah. So Mike Steiner from Holy Cross is on the commission. So
Oh,
we
that's
get
great.
all of the input through the whole thing, which has been a fabulous resource and really helpful. And we have the discussions about, you know, what's the biggest bang for our buck in trying to get to the most efficient options. And sometimes he's been a great source of information that, you know, it's maybe not the best thing for Basalt to get too invested in, for example, batteries right now, because he knows that the technology for the batteries is going to be changing and getting more efficient and smaller in the next so many years. And so has been helpful in guiding us in that way.
Great, thanks.
I also think that to the question of should we be investing in photovoltaics, what is their position on that? You know, I think the fact that they have a program that allows, you know, for up to 0.5 megawatt of energy production, you know, we're taking advantage of something that they have available. So I guess I'm thinking that they wouldn't have that program if they didn't want more photovoltaics, though I think probably some of the energy transition happens on a much larger scale, you know, an industrial level scale, but I still think that these smaller projects have a lot of value in, you know, hyper-local resiliency potentially, and then it also is an opportunity for us to have the schools involved and have, you know, programming that stems from the from having them on the campus, so people can get that education side of it too. So.
Yeah, great.
I also wanted to say that I received the Green Team newsletter
Yes.
and I loved it. Thank you so much for that. Like, I thought that was awesome.
Cool.
That was a huge error I missed mentioning. Thank you for bringing that up. Is the group really wanted to do a bigger public outreach campaign and try to create this community of efficiency and sustainability. So we highly recommend signing up for the newsletter. Get your friends to sign up. We might have a little plug up here. It's on the Green Team website, and it's really neat. And it's got a lot of the fun metrics in there, including the WeCycle metrics and whatnot too. So that's been great.
And the recycling event and the salt by the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. Yeah.
All right.
One last comment. More students on more committees, not just green.
Yeah, definitely.
That's such a cool opportunity
Yeah.
for us to learn from them, and then from them to have that experience. You know, and you know, as you're going out into the world and trying to create a resume, like how awesome to say you were on a Basalt committee.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do it.
So, do you guys want to comment or? And I think you're okay with this process, good deal. Well, we gotta eat some burritos and get ready for a council meeting. If there are no further questions, we'll go eat and then come back.
Thanks for volunteering, you guys.
Yeah, great
excellent.
work. You guys have been
Thanks a lot.
accomplishing a lot this
Yes.
year, last year. Happy to have you. Happy to have your direction as well.
Okay.
Okay, burrito time.
TV producer, good to go? We're good to go back here. How about you, Pam?
I am good to go,
All
sir.
set? Well, let's get it going. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Basalt Town Council meeting for Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. And we just completed a work session with our Basalt Public Arts Commission, our Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commission, and Green Team, which was really great. So took a break, we're back, we're ready to go. And so, Pam, if you would be so kind to call the roll.
Absolutely. Let us begin with David Knight,
Here.
Elise Hoddle, Ryan Slack,
Here.
Bill Kane,
Here.
Dieter Schindler,
Here.
Angela Anderson,
I'm here.
and Glenn Drummond.
Here.
Should be waitress, thank you.
Okay, in a moment, we're going to, not right now, but in a moment, we're going to ask for any public comments, if anyone wants to address council for any item that's not on the agenda tonight. So if you are watching in and would like to virtually communicate with us, you can do so by connecting basalt.net under Agendas and Minutes tab. Click on the September 12, 23 meeting packet. To open on the meeting access instruction page, click on the link to join the webinar, and then Pam Schilling, our clerk, will admit you to the meeting and you can address council. So public comments are limited to 3 minutes. So thank you for that, and then we move to the consent agenda, which is a thin one. It's just the minutes from the August 22, 2023 meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, all approved. So now we do go to a call to the public. So if there's anyone in the public actually here tonight that would like to speak to the council on any matter that's not scheduled on the agenda tonight, feel free to come on up and talk to us. If anybody calling in, it doesn't look like we have callers, so we will move with that. We will move on. So mayor and council reports and comments. Anyone? Floor is open.
I would just like to send a thanks to RWAPA, the board I sit on, and the Forest Service, and CPW, and the Bureau of Reclamation. They had an awesome luncheon with Senator Bennett that I was able to attend. He had asked a lot of good questions. Said there's legislation that they're waiting to kind of horseshoe in on something else to help continue to fund the invasive species mitigation. And so far this year, we've only actually had to decontaminate one boat, but that also is reflecting the work that the Bureau of Reclamation has done on intercepting boats coming from Powell at the state line. So they set up a new station there, and then there's also a lot of work at Powell and some of the other reservoirs to decontaminate them there.
Are you supposed, do they have like a sign at the state line that says if you have a boat you need to pull over, or?
I think when it's set up, yes.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty cool.
Well, there was a nice story in the newspaper, but more importantly, there was an excellent photograph of our Councilor Slack,
Yeah.
hamming it up with Senator Bennett.
It was awesome. He was super nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a nice man.
Yeah. We had lunch and it was good.
So you weren't hamming it up, you were like,
Oh, I was hamming it up. I made him come sit next to us. He was sitting by himself. I was like, come on, Senator. Let's get this going.
wonderful. Well, thanks, that is, the invasive species thing is getting really spooky, so glad you're representing us on that. Anyone else?
Thanks for an awesome concert series. It finished strong every week. It's different acts. And the last one was just a great closer. So it was like really well programmed, I think, like kind of the arc of the whole series. So can't wait for next year.
And the moon, too. Good job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah.
And a blue moon to boot.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was approached by two a gentleman of my general demographic who were complaining about the noise and how loud it was, and I said, yes. You actually heard it. That's good. That's a good thing. Yeah. So, yeah, I have to echo that. I just think we had a phenomenal start to the season, and Michelle, great job with our impresario lining up all those bands. They were just fantastic. Cruz Contrera, and I'm a fan now. They were good. Very loud, very good. They were good. So, great. Anyone else? All righty. Manager?
I just had a couple quick things. We have officially closed the pool for the season now. That went off with the doggy splash, which was I think 2 weeks ago at this point. But I think good reports this summer. I think we were able to finally figure out on some of the heating issues that we've had, though we were able to maintain the heat consistently all summer, but at times using our boiler. So really wanting to get that the air pumps to be working consistently. We are going to be doing our walkthrough. Our 2-year warranty is coming up, so we're going to need to make sure that we get all of that stuff buttoned up. But I think that will allow us to do some of the measuring of energy savings that Elise has asked for. So I think that'll be good news there. And then just a quick update on the water line. Obviously, I think everybody here passes through that way from time to time, but it's progressing well. The Stutson and Gervais team is meeting their timing targets. So they're obviously really close now, down to the far end by the barber shop, which is where they'll stop, and then they're going to come back and start putting in the services. So we're going to have a few more months of that here on the Midland Avenue, but I think they're doing a good job, and people seem to be able to pass through there. They've done a good job of putting some mag chloride down on that open dirt area to try to keep dust down, so I think that's been pretty effective. And people are figuring out how to come over and park on Midland now, and I think the vast majority of people are going the right way. So, so I think people are just kind of getting used to the new layout. That's it.
Great.
I would like to add one thing. I would just like to compliment the pool director. I mean, he busts his butt all summer, and he keeps that pool open on a shoestring. So I just can't thank him enough.
Great, we'll pass it on.
Kurt, yeah.
Sure, you'd like to hear that.
I heard Carbondale's jealous of our pool.
They're coming up here to use it.
Okay, that's it for our manager report, so we will move on to council action. So first action is item 6A, special event activity permit for a food truck to be located at Gather's Home, 530 Basalt Avenue. So Alex got this item.
Good evening, council. Alex Sloan, I'm working in the planning department. I have a special event application that you may have seen before. This was for the food truck at Cather's Home. It was approved on May 23rd for a 3-month stint from June 15th to September 15th. This is Mauricio Sosa, the applicant and owner of La Morenta Food Truck. Mauricio was unable to commence operations this summer, so we are requesting to extend his approval for an additional 3 months. During this 3-month stint, we will monitor any potential impacts of the food truck in the Cather's Home parking lot. We do have consent from Paul Cathers for the operation to continue on the lot. And Mauricio is requesting future renewal on December 15th till March 15th if there are no impacts. Conditions of approval are the same as previously approved on May 23rd. And James does have a map pulled up right now, which was submitted with the previous special event application. James, Michelle, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's great.
Good.
Just if you can't see it on the map, here's the food truck where the cursor is. There's parking, head in here. There's parking, head into the west. And then there's one entry point that's identified for cars to come in off of Basalt Avenue.
Looks great. Can't wait. ¿Qué clase de comida vamos a tener aquí?
Va a ser comida mexicana estilo Nayarit.
Muy bien. So, any questions?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the Cather's Home special event activity permit.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Buena suerte.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Disculpe mi español. Okay, next one. Resolution number 32, series of 2023. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving temporary outdoor vending for Open Sesame on the public right-of-way outside of 770 East Valley Road. Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Council. Good evening. I have with me here today Jack Shore. He is owner of Open Sesame Bagel Shop. We are located at 20 Sunset Drive in the Mid-Valley Design Center. That's off of Willits Lane. You might recognize this location. It's a building that's adjacent to the FedEx building in the industrial area. You can go to the first slide. Thank you. Mr. Shore is also owner of the commercial space at 770 East Valley Road. This is a commercial unit that's between Sotheby's Real Estate and Bookbinders in Willits Town Center. It's highlighted by the star there. The unit is currently unfinished, and the applicant is within the building permit process and has been advertising in the window for some time that Open Sesame will be locating in this area. The applicant is proposing an allowance to vend products on the walkway outside of 7070 East Valley Road, which includes bagels and other baked goods, cream cheese, and potentially drinks. Hours of operation being proposed are Monday through Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And they're interested in beginning vending operations as soon as possible until the weather prohibits outdoor vending from happening. And the applicants indicated that this is an effort to increase visibility of the business as well as product sales. So the code does allow the temporary vending to be considered and approved at an administrative level for up to 12 days per calendar year. And the applicant is seeking more than these 12 days. This is something that can be considered and approved by the town council as you see appropriate by way of resolution. And a resolution has been drafted and is within your packet. So the applicant has received an initial approval for outdoor vending by Romero Group, who is the group that oversees the Willits Town Center Master HOA as well as the Triangle Park HOA, with a caveat, a couple of small caveats, and one being that no tents would be permitted on the site. James, if you want to go to the second one, I was just going to show there's the storefront as you probably have seen it, and then here's the walkway. It's a wide walkway in front of that, the commercial spaces there. So staff has identified a couple of discussion items that we'd like for council to consider. One being the location. Outdoor merchandising is typically allowed for businesses with adjacent storefronts. In Willits Town Center in the past, we've have received and seen similar requests, and this has culminated in that annual sidewalk sale that happened in Willits Town Center maybe 3 weeks ago or so, that the applicant did participate in that sale as well. So we'd like council just to consider whether this could lead to similar requests in the future, requests of similar nature. Also, the length of time the applicant is proposing to vend outdoors without any kind of hard stop date. Temporary vending applications approved by the town must be considered with a definitive end date. So staff has suggested that council consider a date that's no later than November 1st for vending activities on the public right of way. Should council approve the request for outdoor vending, staff has drafted a number of items as conditions of approval, and those are included in the packet as well as the resolution. A few that we'd like to highlight is just that the vending be tied to an active building permit. They're currently in an active building permit situation. This does highlight the applicant's intent to open a business in this location, as well as may help prevent future requests that are similar in nature in the future. We have also conditioned limiting where the vending can be placed in the site and what can be placed, that it is cleaned up on a nightly basis, ensuring that it does not interfere with businesses on either side of this business. And again, suggesting that definitive end date, not later than November 1st. There are a number of other ones that are more standard conditions of approval. But at this point, I guess I could turn it over to Jack, if you'd have any questions or if you'd like to present anything.
Yeah, if it pleases the council, I'd like to say a few things. First, Sarah, thank you so much, and thank you to the staff for advocating for Open Sesame. I've lived in the Valley for about 9 years. I moved to Basalt in 2020. At the time, my wife was teaching yoga during COVID, and I have a 2-year-old. They're with me right now because she's still teaching yoga. But as you might know, it's impossible to teach yoga with a 2-year-old in the house. So we would go and we would take, I would take the girl, well, at the time there was only one girl, take my daughter Adeline to the upper crust because she loved bagels. So we would go there, and one day they had closed. They had shut down. And I said, well, someone's got to, the Valley's got to have real bagels. So I said, well, I'll do something, right? Not having any clue what I was about to get into. But I said, if we're going to do a bagel store, then I want to do the coolest bagel store ever. I want it to be farm to bagel. I want it to be something that's fun and delivers joy to people, because at the end of the day, bagels are really like cupcakes for adults. People get really excited about them. And so we did, and it's been a journey, and it's really hard to start a business. Very, very difficult. I have another business here called Fold, which is also a startup, but Fold is actually doing quite well, and that is because of its location, whereas Open Sesame is doing horribly. People love us, and they don't want to come to where we are, and so it's been a problem for us from day one. And so I haven't made a penny off of the business, nor at this point do I even care about that. At some point, I'm sure it will be profitable if we can get open. But that process takes quite a bit of time. And so the reason why I'm here tonight is really for my staff. I employ about 12 people, many of those who have families and who rely upon us. Because the business is not profitable, I've gone through months where I've put up to $25,000 a month into the company to feed the staff. And I told Sarah, I just can't do it anymore. I'm not in the financial position to do that. And I think that part of that was, we thought the process of designing this amazing place and getting it open was just going to be a walk in the park. And in fact, I own the space that it's going into, and like a fool, I demolished it about 1.5 years ago. And so it's been sitting empty without any rental income while I'm still also paying the mortgage for that. And so I'm here for my staff because we've done some tests. Obviously, we had this 4-day pop-up through the Romero Group, and it was great. The income, the revenues were about $1,100 to $1,200 a day. And that's what I need right now to protect my staff. And so I'm here asking the city, I was going to bring some of them with me, but they work hard and it's family time, so I'm here on their behalf and eventually on my behalf, because I want to keep the business going. I think we provide a wonderful service. We have a very unique product that nobody else in the valley provides, a real boiled product that's a bagel. I mean, even the upper crust didn't do that, nor did Bagel Bites. And so, you know, I think we spread a lot of joy, but we need some support. And so I'm here kind of collecting, like a squirrel collecting acorns for the winter, right? I need to generate more revenue in order to bridge the gap between the off-season and what our revenues are now, and to what into the time period being where we can actually open for business and get CO. And that could be 3-4 months, 5 months perhaps. I will say that I believe business is picking up. We did a free coffee campaign. So now when everyone comes to Open Sesame, we give them some love. We give them free coffee, free espressos, and that's been driving traffic a little bit, but it's still not enough if you look at the numbers to sustain those families and keep the business open for the community without doing something, you know, creative aside from free coffee. So, yeah, we'd appreciate your support.
Any questions from council?
I guess my question is, you know, without a tent, what's your plan for weather?
Great question. I spoke to Alex at the Romero Group, and he's been really helpful and supportive. And I don't have a full answer for that question. If it's inclement weather, then we're not going to have people out there, number one. But I will tell you that Alex had mentioned to me that he was pretty positive that the HOA would do something to allow it. Because after all the other businesses that are able to sell merchandise outside, they all have tents. If you go out there, they pretty much all have tents. If you look at Bristol Cone, for instance, they have tents outside. And I've also spoken with John Charters, who is the owner of Bristol Cone, and I guess the front person for that organization. And he has said, you know, if the city allows this and you need a place to be, we'll support you. So I think the community is supportive of us. We just need to get over there. And I'm certainly not going to put anyone in a situation that would be uncomfortable. I'm hoping that I don't know the date of the ski swap, but I'm hoping that we can be out there on that date as well, because that would be a huge date for us. And hopefully, look, I mean, hopefully we're out there enough and people know where we are and know what we're about. I don't know if you've seen any advertising from Open Sesame, but we do a lot of it online. And it just doesn't generate the conversions that we'd like it to generate, you know? And so, yeah, you know, so we're asking for support.
I have a technical question.
Sure.
James, can you pull up the picture of the sidewalk?
Yeah.
What's the width of that sidewalk? And if you want 2 8-foot tables, where are you gonna put them so people can navigate the sidewalk?
It's a great question. And so what I can tell you, because we did this last time, if I can stand for a second.
Absolutely.
I believe the tables go from here to about here, halfway through this window there, right here.
And so they're tucked against your building, and then
Correct.
And then your employees stand on the sides.
No, we did have the door open at the time, but it's, I mean, to be fair, it is a demoed construction site, so it's not the most sightly. But what we did when we were there is we followed food safety protocol, so we used gloves and tongs and bags to produce the food, and then we relied upon our shop for support if we had to bring things back to be cleaned, etc.
And just to add to that, I believe that those are 10-foot sidewalks in that location. We are requiring, and this is something
You
that,
got 5 feet in there.
right, exactly, and that's your minimum for the ADA access and
Yeah.
minimum pedestrian width.
We only need about 10 inches to be behind there, you know, with a little stool for someone to sit down. So we can keep it tight if need be.
Is there an active building permit in place, and is construction going on inside the space?
The truth of that is I don't know how to define that. I believe the only thing we're waiting on is for me to pay the tap fees, which I believe are, I'm going back, but I think they're around $14,000. And because of all the money I've put in Open Sesame, I've been waiting for the bank to approve the loan, and I got notification today that that was in process. So as soon as those funds come in, then I will use those funds first and foremost to pay the water tap fees, which would in turn allow the city, I believe, to release the permit. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, as far as the town is concerned, he does have an active building permit.
Okay.
It is live.
I guess where I was going with it is if you have a down day, weather-wise, can you just duck inside and operate from inside your space for, you know?
There's not
I don't know the rules
There's
on
no
that.
CO,
Yeah.
so
Oh, okay.
it's basically a unfinished shell at this point, and it wouldn't be allowed.
Got it.
Needs a lot of space. It's going to have a lot of work done to it. Yeah, unfortunately,
Alrighty.
What about
it takes time.
hand washing for employees? Where does that occur?
So a few things. One, we use gloves and tongs, which I believe is health protocol. The staff from the store, including myself, does support the person who is working the pop-up so they can take breaks. So if they have to leave, we come up so they can go to the bathroom, and we have friends next door at Compass and Sotheby's and Whole Foods who let us use the facilities. And then we bring with us as well sanitizer, which is something that all restaurants use for basically sanitation purposes. But we never touch the food with our bare hands.
Well, if I can just add to that, and one of the conditions of the resolution is that if there's any Eagle County Health Department requirements, and it'd be very similar to what you'd find at the vending booths at the Sunday market. There are allowances within the Cottage Food Act about how certain things are treated, and so we're looking into this to find out how this would need to behave. At the very least, he may be required to set up like a hand washing station, which is what we do have for vendors at, like say the empanada folks that sell at the market are required to have it's a very like rudimentary hand washing station that the employee uses.
So the period of,
Yeah, we
period
also
of
have
time-
used in the past like the Gatorade water containers with the spigot. Yeah.
so for the period of time, it would be Eagle County that's gonna come and issue sort of a health safety.
Eagle County would be that'd be under their purview.
Have you gotten approval from them yet? Have you talked to them? Have we broached that subject?
We have been in touch with them throughout the process because they had to, my recollection is, so I had someone who was performing my role before I had to let them go. I couldn't afford them. And I have to check the records, but we were in contact with Eagle County Health about requirements, and they had to approve, to my recollection, they had to approve the building plans and so forth. But no, I have not yet spoken to them in particular about the pop-up. No, I will, I can, and I should.
Well, being that would be a requirement that
Right.
staff has added to the conditions of approval, of consideration. So that would be something that we could, I could help facilitate that connection.
Right.
So like if we approve this, we're not gonna see bagels out there tomorrow. I mean, I know you'd love that, but on the same token, like, I don't wanna see the public's health put at risk.
1,000%. And we wouldn't do it if that was the case. We wouldn't do it. I would shut it down. Again, I mean, this is not about me, Jack, personally making money. This is not about that. I have lost more money than I don't know if I will ever make back from this company. I think we will after a few years. But for me right now, it's about, keeping our staff fed. I mean, we have one employee who just had a baby, literally 3 weeks ago. And so how are we going to support them? And it keeps me up at night because I myself am out of cash. I just can't do it. In fact, I've listed 2 properties for sale in case I need to rely upon that to help put money back into this company. But I think the process of going through what we've been going through has been really difficult. As a small company, as a restaurant business, with the location that we're in, trying to get open. And unfortunately, you know, you learn from your mistakes, but we've burned through a ton of capital and it's just not there. And so we need to pay people out of cash flow, you know. And so all I'm trying to do is build awareness of what we do on the one hand, and also, you know, generate revenues to store for winter. So.
Sorry for the question, the ignorance here. How long is a business license active?
1 year.
1 year? And where are we in that?
So, well, that's
I'm a little
a
confused.
good question. So you have a business license with Open Sesame relocation.
Correct.
It's current.
And that comes from the health department and a sales tax license, yeah.
We have the sales tax license with the town as well.
Oh,
I don't know where we are in that process today. It is part of the conditions.
What about the building permit?
Pardon?
How, the building permit, does it have a expiration?
Speaking with the building department, I know that their building permit is currently active. I don't know about the expiration on that, and I certainly would be happy to look into it. The condition that we've tied to within the resolution is that so long as the building permit is active, if the building permit were to go stale, were to be evacuated, then this would no longer be. We're kind of tying the two together. It would no longer be able to perform vending operations.
So it's not,
Go check.
pause a moment.
Hopefully that's not one of the customers that's
Dieter, to answer your question, it's usually a 6-month from the time of issuance is how long your
For the
permit.
building?
Yeah, exactly.
What time, when was it issued?
It hasn't been issued yet.
Building permit hasn't been
No, because as he noted, he hasn't paid his water tap fees, so we're waiting on that to issue the building permit.
Water taps in an existing building?
I think to expand.
No,
it
to
for a
get-
restaurant.
It appears that the AVSC ski swap is on the 26th.
October?
No, September 26th. So, is that not right? Oh, this
That's
is an
correct.
old
That might
one.
be last year's.
Sorry, this is an old one.
I think we're talking October, although nothing's definitive at this point.
What about power? Are you gonna have to have power out there? Because I know there was a stipulation about cords and that's a trip hazard and all.
So we did use power. We drew power from, and we have a cooler inside. I mean a fridge inside of the future space, small little fridge, and we drew power from our neighbor. I do business both Sotheby's and Compass, so they let me use their power. We have an extension cord and a power strip. But honestly, we didn't really need it because the coolers that we have keep everything at the temperature they're required to be kept at. And so we used it for one day and then we used the others.
All right, Saturday, October 7th.
October 7th, right, okay. That's gonna be a big day for us if we can.
Well, what I was gonna suggest, if my fellow counselors are amenable, is that we do like a temporary permit for a period of time that encompasses the 7th. And then we review and make sure that there aren't any complaints, there aren't any concerns, everything that was required has been met. And then it would be an administrative extension for whatever the remainder is to November 1st.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say administrative, can we do something like that, given that administrative approvals can only be 12 days? So maybe it's a,
But I mean, instead of having it come back to,
and I'll do
instead of having
allowance.
it come back to council, as
Yeah.
long as everything is being met. So council would be,
we're just doing a
approving
check-in, and
it.
so long as it's fine, then it can continue. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, council could approve the permit through, what was it, October 7th? And then,
through October 31st.
no, I'm sorry, but
Well, that's what
appro-
this is
Oh, yeah,
already.
the two-parter.
yeah, approving it through the ski swap.
The Sunday.
And
in providing the staff with the authority to extend the permit time through the end of the month if there are no issues with the conditions of the approval. Is that yeah, that works.
I think I would be more comfortable having an arrangement where you pick 12 days, I mean, or up to, stick within the guidelines that are gonna be high volume days. This is gonna be disruptive to the sidewalk. I mean, you see the pictures, those trees, there's all these factors. It's not going to be a smooth experience for people out on the sidewalks there. And additionally, other businesses, I'm sure would love to do this on the regular also, for the very same reasons you want to do it. But if we had everybody out on the sidewalks all the time selling, that would be problematic.
The only thing I'll counter to that is, like, Bristlecone pretty much always has a tent and two
So does
racks.
Midland
They
Clothing.
do.
Yeah,
They always
exactly.
do.
So like they're constantly in the same context. Granted, there's not a person standing out there, but there's still.
They're not vending though, are they even allowed to be doing what they're doing? Are they just?
That's when I drove by, after reading this, I was wondering the same thing. But I think a lot of that's HOA, so it's a matter of what the HOA is going to tolerate versus what the town can enforce.
That's a
Correct
different
me if I'm
scope.
wrong.
Putting your stuff out there and it be violating an HOA is a different scope than actually vending on the sidewalk, correct?
I think that when there's an active business there, it's a bit of a different scenario, and I don't know if James, knowing the rules of Willits Town Center.
Bagels out front on a regular basis.
I'm sorry, say it again?
And we're asking James behind you.
Well, there are some buildings out at Willits that actually have additional private property that's outside their building. So some of those have their displays in their private property and not on town right-of-way. And then there are other buildings that go right up to the right-of-way. So if you're doing business and putting stuff outside your building, it's in the right-of-way.
And this would be one of those that's to the right of way versus like Bristlecone. It seems like there's a lot more room on that side of the street.
This is one that's up to the property line, so doing it outside the building is in the right-of-way. There's a mixed bag. Staff has not actively enforced the issue in Willits or in downtown Basalt. We have that situation here in downtown as well. It really hasn't caused issues too often in either location. I think if there are certain circumstances where it did cause issues, staff would have to do enforcement. But
I want to be supportive of this whole thing. Like, the only thing that is a big red alarm for me is like already having talked to Eagle County and saying, yeah, this is what they're going to require me to do, hand washing stations, blah, 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 and having all that lined out would really show you are prepared to fulfill this. And
Yeah.
I don't want to create a precedent. I understand your situation. It's rough, but
It's the same thing as the farmer's market though. It's not like,
I'll agree.
it's not like.
But on the same token, it's not quite the same as a farmer's market, because like, let's say that Cajun wanted to serve, on this side of the street, or, just another food service business in this confined area is a little tight.
They have a patio.
I know.
They do that. My son and I have attended one of Jack's pop-ups and gotten a delicious bagel, and I thought it was fine. Nobody seemed to be bothered by the sidewalk. It's gonna be good to have this business, it's nice to walk with my family to get like an easy breakfast thing. I've been walking over to the FedEx area, but I'm just saying, I've seen him in action doing it. It seemed organized to me.
Okay, you convinced me.
I mean, I appreciate it. I will say this, that, I believe there's still components, there's still a sink, I believe, in there, a bathroom sink in the building which we could use for hand washing. I have to check on the
But I
stats.
don't think you can technically use it because you don't have a CO. So like, we don't want to,
That's a good point.
can't sit here and have
Yeah.
you say.
I mean, listen, I could easily put out a hand washing station there. It's not hard with a drop pan. The thing for me is Look, you know, I think this business has a lot of potential to bring a ton of vibrancy for what it is we do. I think Open Sesame is special. I mean, our slogan is, you know, bagels. It's bagels, laughter, and kindness make the world go round, right? And so I think we really live that, you know. And if you read our reviews, we really do make people happy. I think that for me as a businessman, I've never had a business that struggled this much. And the reason why it struggles is because it's very expensive to have a food business, and in the location that we've been in as people have been discovering us, it's just been a lot of losses. I don't think it's the business itself or the quality of the product. If you had our food or you read our reviews, you'll see that. And so I think that having this business to add to everything, to the vitality of the town, to the tax base, to everything that we're going to do is great. And I'll tell you honestly, if our store was open, there is no way that I would want to sell bagels outside like that. It is an effort. It is a big effort for us. We have to transport the bagels. We have to set up and break down every day. It's just not an easy thing. But, you know, nothing that is worth doing is easy. And so we're willing to do it because I want to keep this business alive. The easiest thing in the world for me to do would be to shut it down. And I think that would be something that would be not great for the town, especially Willits. I mean, we really would be the only breakfast place in that whole area.
All right.
I mean, looking at the calendar, this is only for 6 weeks. If there are any complaints, can we readdress it?
Or staff can, right?
Yeah, or
There's the ability to revoke the permit. Yep.
Okay, okay, well, Mayor, I move the town council approve the Open Sesame Bagel temporary outdoor vending special event activity permit.
Second.
Is there a date gonna be attached to that?
Already is.
Was that agreed on, or November 1st?
November 1st is the end date, so from when he.
In the resolution as written, it's November 1st.
Okay.
Okay, been moved and seconded. So this is a reso, so we can do this by voice vote, I presume. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed, okay. I forgot the condition that we wanted cinnamon raisin in that mix out there.
Oh, that's
We have
awesome.
a brand new recipe for cinnamon. It's a marbled cinnamon, black and golden raisin, and it's so much better than our last one.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you. So next item is interview and appointment for our Basalt Public Arts Commission, BPAC. Chris Mullen, come on up. There you are, Chris. How you doing? Welcome, and thanks for your willingness to serve. So, Sarah, you going to be the host this here?
Just
Yeah.
introducing Chris Mullen on behalf of the Basalt Public Arts Commission. Chris has attended several meetings and has, you know, brought great input and feedback to the items that we've been discussing with BPAC. Chris is a local resident of Basalt. He's been here about 14, 15 years. So he's definitely, you know, in the Basalt culture. Is raising his family here and wants to give back to the community. Yeah, I met Chris years ago, maybe 2017, when you were working on our revamp of our website. So that's how I was first introduced to Chris, and see him all over the community at every event that I'm at. So it's nice to see somebody who's really eager and willing to get involved with one of our commissions. So hand it over to Chris. Oh, and he's come fully recommended by all of our BPAC commissioners who have given input on this subject.
Great. So, Chris, maybe say a few words about yourself and why you're interested in this, and love to hear it.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've been involved, you know, throughout the summer, and I don't know. The topics have been things that I am knowledgeable about and interested in, and have been able to give input on and seems to be helpful. So, yeah, it's been good progress and want to keep it going.
Great.
And why BPAC?
Well, I have a very busy schedule, and that hour and a half in the month was open, and I wanted to get more involved with Basalt, and so, you know, one of the commissions was a great way to do it, and that one fit into my schedule, and I have interest in it. You know, I'm always bringing my kids to arts events and being involved, so it was a logical fit for me.
It's a very pragmatic reason and rationale for that choice. I like it.
I think those pragmatic reasons can be the reason to keep getting involved and staying involved, and you know, when it can really work in your schedule, it's wonderful.
First, I'll say go Buffs, and second, I'll say, Mayor, I move that the town council appoint Chris Mullen to the Basalt Public Arts Commission for a 3-year term to end September 12th, 2026.
Second.
Okay.
And thanks a lot for volunteering.
Let's go Buffs.
At least you got somebody to root for.
They call the vote.
The Broncos ain't doing it.
So been moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Chris. Thanks very much for
See you around.
your interest in the
Thank you.
town.
With our membership on BPAC now, so anyone out there that wants to join Green Team, get in touch. Thank you.
So next order of business is the public hearing and first reading for ordinance number 20, series of 23. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, granting special review, site plan review, slope review for the construction of a single-family residence and an accessory dwelling unit at 144 West Homestead Drive, Lot C, Mabel subdivision. James.
Thank you. We do have the applicant, Ryan Thompson, on Zoom with us this evening. This is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance on an application submitted by Ryan Thompson for site plan review, special review, and slope review to construct a single-family residence and ADU at 144 West Homestead Drive. The property subject to the application is this property right here. It's a 5,900 square foot vacant lot that's zoned R4 MD. This is Homestead Drive. This is Tucker Lane running behind it. It contains a flat bench area adjacent to Homestead Drive, and then it slopes down to another flat bench area that's adjacent to Tucker Lane. And so the applicant's proposal is to construct a single-family residence on the front portion adjacent to Homestead Drive of 1,700 square feet, and then a garage on the back adjacent to Tucker Lane that gets access from Tucker Lane with an ADU above it of 500 square feet, and that's adjacent to Tucker Lane as well. The review process includes the land use requests of site plan review, special review, and slope review. The special review requires a P&Z recommendation to the town council, and so P&Z has reviewed the application. It also requires public hearings at both the Planning and Zoning Commission level as well as the town council level. In reviewing the application, staff has identified a series of discussion items that are in your packet. They're also in the staff memo that's in your packet to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They include consistency with the master plan. Staff identified a series of goals and objectives from the master plan that's in that Planning and Zoning Commission memo that's in your packet. And they generally include promoting small units on small lots, as well as ADUs to be integrated into the existing neighborhoods of town. The P&Z felt that this proposal is consistent with those goals and objectives that are stated in the master plan. In terms of the consistency with the R4MD zone district, as was noted in the memo, they propose to satisfy the size requirements for 1,700 square foot house, and that's gross square footage, as well as a 500 square foot ADU, which meet the R4MD requirements. They also propose to meet the height as well as the setbacks and the parking required by the R4MD zone district, as was outlined in the P&Z memo. It also satisfies the minimum lot size that's required for an ADU to be provided with the single-family house. In the R4MD zone district, that minimum size is 5,000 square feet, and the applicants have a 5,900 square foot lot. As was noted, the vehicular access and the parking is accessed off the rear of the lot from Tucker Lane, and the applicants have proposed to meet the parking requirements for the R4MD zone district with 2 for the main house and then 1 for the ADU. And there are conditions in the draft ordinance that the main house have the 2 stacked parking spaces and that the 1 ADU space be adjacent to those so that they do not block in the ADU space. Other topics included the deed restriction. ADUs are required to be deed restricted such that 1 of the 2 units on the site be occupied as a primary residence. And so the draft conditions require that that deed restriction be provided, as well as it be executed and recorded before a certificate of occupancy is issued on the site. Going back to the site plan, in terms of the slope and the utilities, the applicants have proposed to stay off the slope as much as practical. However, they're required to run the water for both units from Homestead Drive, and they're required to run the sewer, which is in red here, from Tucker Lane to both units because there is not a sewer main in Homestead Drive. So that will require some disturbance to the slope, but staff is required in the conditions of approval that the applicants prepare a rockfall mitigation plan for when they're doing work on the slope, as well as to mitigate with revegetation once they've done the installations. It also requires that they obtain a tree removal permit prior to removing any trees, and that they mitigate for those trees that are removed. And additionally, they're required to fence off the areas of disturbance around the slopes. Other requirements include meeting the town's sustainable building regulations, as well as wildfire mitigation requirements that are in place at the time of permit issuance. Overall, the P&Z was supportive of the proposal, and they recommended approval with the conditions that you have in your ordinance that's in the packet. So this evening, staff would recommend taking applicant comments, taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and then providing council discussion. If you're comfortable with the conditions, you could approve the ordinance on first reading and set a second reading date of September 26th. As I noted, we do have Ryan Thompson on the Zoom call today. Ryan, do you have any comments for the council? Ryan, you might be on mute.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to working with the town of Basalt. We've been, my sister actually owns the lot right next door, so I've seen this lot change hands quite a few times, and finally made the purchase and look forward to putting up a single family home there with some additional dwelling units for affordable housing as well. So looking forward to the whole process.
Cool.
So staff would suggest asking any questions that you have of staff and the applicant.
Do we have any requirements for the ADU to be not to be used as an STR?
Yeah, with the deed restriction, there's a requirement that it can't be short-term rented.
Okay, so one of the units has to be lived in by a full-time resident, and the second unit cannot be STR.
That's correct.
Is there off-street parking for the primary residence off of Tucker Lane? Is that in that secondary structure?
Yes, the off-street parking, let's see if I can go up here. Computer's frozen. The off-street parking, there's one space in the garage, and there's 2 spaces off of Tucker Lane
Okay.
in kind of the driveway area. And so there would be 2 spaces that are stacked for the main house, one behind the other, and then the ADU parking space would be to the side.
There's
So
a
that-
lift to get, this is a bit of a,
Yeah, but he can also park in the front.
yeah.
Thank you.
They're allowed to on Homestead?
He probably has like 1 spot.
That's pretty narrow.
Yeah, it's a pretty narrow lot.
And you don't think it
I'm
would,
surprised they can get that much.
and you don't think.
Hey, guys, if you're gonna make comments on the application, let's get them on the record.
Sorry,
Thanks.
I was asking about parking.
Okay.
Yes, there's parking out front, is what I was telling you.
I was just clarifying whether there's enough room to park a vehicle in the front.
Yeah, I can go back to the site plan now. The computer has stopped freezing up. So there is parallel parking potential out front as well. And it's currently used as parallel parking.
Is that on-street or off-street?
It's considered on-street parking.
But they will have 3 off-street.
Three off-street, 2 in the driveway and 1 in the garage.
Public comment? Do we have any?
This is more for my curiosity, that the overall site plan, the setback from the top of the slope and when something's placed at the top of the slope, it's greater than 30%, this whole bit at the top of the building, I was trying to visualize that, like how do you visualize that, like as far as?
Site section shows it pretty well.
This is probably the best view to kind of look at it.
I mean, the rule, that there's the rule and the thing that, just curious was what that.
There's a couple rules in the slope regulations. One of the rules is that for it to be considered a 30% slope, it's got to have 10 feet of vertical rise to the slope. In this case, it does. However, it's been terraced in the past, so it's not kind of a man-made slope there. And so the terracing is affected where the top of the slope is.
Oh, I see.
So the terracing is kind of more down here at the top of it. So that's really considered the top of slope. So it meets that 10.
So if it was a continuous natural 30% or greater slope, you couldn't go right up to the edge of it. That's what that means. Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
But because it's terraced, there's.
Yeah, it's
a
like, it's
different
not
top of
really
slope.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the education.
Do we have public comment? Or do you want a motion?
No, I think we're good.
I think we need to take
You
public
need to
comment.
take it. You need to
Oh,
open it.
sorry, sorry, I thought, are there public comments? I was reading the document here. So, this is a public hearing and first reading, so, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council on this item? Come on up, sir. Please tell us your name, address, rank, and serial number.
My name's Mark Leese. I live next door to this lot. I support what Ryan is doing. I think it's a good design. I think it's well thought out. I think it's in character with the neighborhood. I think all the site issues, utilities and everything are pretty straightforward and well addressed. I'm only here because I could get all you people at one time. And my concern is, I own this lot. I'm the one that split it. I'm the one that changed the zoning through the town to be more dense. I think it's in character with the neighborhood. And so this is exactly what I imagined and what the town imagined at the time they approved the zoning. Smaller units, unfortunately, it won't be affordable, but that's a matter of market. It's not a matter of anything that people like us can do. It's just the world we live in now. But what is happening in that neighborhood is we continue to have a great neighborhood with neighbors and community. And I think this, hopefully, fingers crossed, will, you know, add a new neighbor or neighbors to the hood. My concern is, though, there's an accrual of more density, and we live in that's a pedestrian street. We have one sidewalk that wide on a quarter of the length, only on one side. So people are in the street all the time. There's nothing that the town has done, and I've lived there almost 30 years now, to acknowledge the fact that it's in a pedestrian street. It needs to be acknowledged. It would be a great thing for that neighborhood. There's no signage. There's a couple of speed bumps, but you know, there's nothing to say, you're on a pedestrian street here, guy with your giant boat cutting through our neighborhood, which I understand and it's gonna happen, but there needs to be a longer term thought here, I think. So that's why I'm here. I think that you should think about that. There should be, it's not that big of a deal to create an acknowledgement of a pedestrian street. I think the pedestrian street is what makes that neighborhood. Sopris has no sidewalks, none. So, and people like living there, you know? They like that scene. So, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Comments? Anyone else? Anybody in the audience or anybody calling in that would like to comment? All right, that concludes public comment period. Questions and/or motion?
Mayor, I move town council approve ordinance number 20, series of 2023 on first reading, set the public hearing and second reading for September 26, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let us begin with Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes that item. We move to item 6E. This is a public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 21, series of 23, ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, granting an extension of vested rights for the site plan approval, Southside Floodplain Reach 2 ESA review approval, community housing review approval, and a license agreement for an automated car wash located at 115 Southside Drive, Lot 1 of the Basalt Business Center West Subdivision. Evening, gentlemen.
Thank you. We have the applicants here this evening. We've got John Belkin, who represents the ownership group, and Mitch Haas of Haas Land Planning. This is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance submitted on a request by the Von Ruin Group for an extension of vested rights on site plan, environmentally sensitive area, and community housing review approvals that were granted in 2020 for an automated car wash at 115 Southside Drive. This is the property here. You've got West Cody Lane, which is the frontage road on Southside, and then you also have Southside Drive. This is Big O Tires located across Southside Drive from the property. It's currently a vacant property. The approvals that were granted in 2020 permit the construction of a one-bay automated car wash, as you see on the site plan on your screen. It also included a license agreement for the town to purchase the right-of-way here off of Southside Drive. And it was for the construction of head-end parking that was proposed in conjunction with the project. It was seen as a benefit at the time of the review in that it would allow for a more organized on-street parking situation in the area. If you're familiar with the Big O area, there are parking issues on the street at high times of year for their business, and so this would better organize it. It was also seen as a positive in that it provided additional right-of-way to allow for the potential for the future South Side underpass that's been discussed over time with the town. The applicant was also required to pay cash in lieu of providing community housing mitigation on the site, as their obligation was only for a portion of a unit, and so they were required to pay about $24,000 in affordable housing mitigation per the town code. The applicants have requested the extension of vested rights for 3 years, and they have a variety of reasons that are in the letter of request, and they can more have a more detailed explanation for you as part of their comments. In reviewing the request, staff believes that a 1-year extension of vested rights with the ability for the applicant to come back if needed is more in keeping with the town's practice on limiting vested rights. We've limited vested rights extensions in the past because we didn't want to have stale approvals that are insulated from code and policy changes that may occur. In this case, there haven't really been any land use regulation changes since their approvals were granted, but staff anticipates potentially some changes to the affordable housing requirements here in the next year or so. So staff would recommend only granting a 1-year extension of vested rights with the potential for them to come back, and that's what's included in the ordinance that's in your packet. The draft ordinance also requires the applicant to meet applicable building code as well as energy code and sustainable building regulations that are in effect at the time of a building permit issuance. So there's been some changes to the town's energy codes and building codes since the approval, so the applicants would be required to meet those changes. So this evening, staff would recommend hearing comments from the applicants, taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and then providing council discussion. If you're comfortable, you could approve the ordinance on first reading and set a second reading date and continuation of the public hearing to September 26th. As I noted, the ordinance includes a 1-year extension of vested rights. As I noted, we do have the applicants here this evening. We've got John Belkin and Mitch Haas.
Mitch, do you want to, or I don't know what your preference is, but be pleased to hear from you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mitch Haas. I'm here with John Belkin, who is part of the applicant team. And
I am the applicant.
You are the applicant, part of the Van Royen.
Yep.
Yeah, I think James kind of covers it. It's not, I don't think I need to rehash the whole project and approval. We did request 3 years for the vested rights extension. I think it's, a relatively simple reason behind that, being that nothing in the code has changed from this approval when it was reviewed, and John went through an extensive review process with very detailed process, and nothing in the code has changed. So my thought would be if we had, instead of requested vested rights, simply resubmitted the same application, its approval, which one would assume would be granted given that no codes have changed and it was already found to meet all of the applicable codes, that approval would come with 3 years of vested rights. So I don't think asking for 3 years would result in a stale approval. It would result in the same approval that would be granted for the same application if we simply resubmitted it. So that's sort of the logic behind asking for 3 years. Is 1 year unreasonable? I wouldn't call it unreasonable, but it's a very quick time frame and may or may not accommodate the things we're hoping would happen in the world with construction costs, insurance, interest rates, etc. So you know, we're not opposed to the staff recommendation. I just would hope not to have to come back in 1 year when the same 3-year vesting period would be standardly issued with a reapproval of the same project.
John, you want to offer anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at the site plan, and I don't look at it that much anymore, just because I live by the adage on this project that good things come to those who wait. Because this has been, we closed on this property, we bought it from the ski co. We put it under contract in October of 19, and then of course COVID happened. And we closed on it right at the time we got the entitlement, call it, in the summer of 2020. And then went through a year process to have the plans prepared and reviewed, and we're actually effectively building permit ready right now. But during that time, all the things you read on the news really have affected this project. For instance, once we got to the summer of 2021, and we could actually, a year after we had gotten the entitlement and closed, you couldn't get computer chips for car wash equipment. The car wash equipment that's in this car wash is almost $2 million in equipment. We don't have anything like this in the valley. You'll see these in Denver and other cities, but so we can't, and there's a lead time, so we couldn't buy equipment. And so we lost another year. And then of course we see what has happened to interest rates and everything during that time. You know, now to Bank Colorado, for instance, who would have funded at the time, the project only takes 6 months to build. So you have to order the equipment when you break ground. And so the cadence of events, that's why I started with, you know, good things come to those who wait. If we went to Bank Colorado and borrowed the money right now, we're looking at like 8%, where private money can be in the 13s. So we're just waiting for the right environment to start construction. Nothing will change. You know, just I presented this to the council at an earlier time. Obviously, this employs 1.5 people. It's automated. It's got license plate readers. It's really all the bells and whistles. The total price point on it's about $8 million. It's going to be a really good product for the community. The recycling has even improved. The water recycling in the last 3 years, I think it's like in the 70 to 80% now. So yeah, that's what we're looking at, and the plan is to build it when we get the right time to do it. And so that's it. And just so people know, there was a tailwater ditch, well there is, on the I guess it's the east side of the property. Yeah, right there. That we piped, so it's now in a culvert, and there's a box, and we improved the irrigation equipment that's irrigating the town's property along Cody Lane. And we also cut down a whole bunch of the town's trees, deadfall that was in the area to the east of the property. So there have been some things that have happened over there, and part of the reason the construction fence was up for a while was we piped the ditch, and we're planning to get going, but that's when we ran into problems with getting equipment, and we had to stop. So you can't go in a car wash and build, put $6 million in a car wash and not be able to put equipment in it and have it sitting there for a year while you can't put equipment in it. So you can see the problem. So that's why we have it where it is right now. We're not selling the property. I have people approach me. We're going to put this there. So.
All right, thank you. Council, questions of the applicant? All right, we will, this is a public hearing, so we will open it up for comments. Anybody in the audience or anybody would like to call in on ordinance number 21? Looks like we have none. Discussion from council, questions?
The only thing I only support 1 year vested rights. And reason being is, like James said, I think in a year you're going to see employee housing mitigation fees probably change, so they're going to increase. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that's interesting about this property, if you think about it, there's a parking problem over there now. We don't park cars, meaning there's no cars that park there. It's a unique business, and, you know, most businesses, people go and they have to park. This is one that doesn't generate any parking need. It's also unique in that we're gonna solve the parking problem over there. There's cars everywhere. I talked to Big O and the detail shop, and we let them park partially on our property right now. Those are local businesses, and they're really happy with us, the way we're letting them just kind of leak into the property. And I'm okay with that. I'm a local, I live in Basalt. The other thing that I think we all need to think about is, this doesn't generate employees. This is not a big employee business. It actually requires very little employees, because it's effectively all automated. And that's gonna even change. It's interesting, I've had other large car wash people call me that have said that they would like to buy it, and I've said no, because I want it to be a local business. I want it to be something for our valley. I don't want a big car wash chain owned by private equity. I want to own it. I live here, and I'm going to live here. My kids go to school here. So I think, you know, with AI, which you see in the news, I'm in a business right now that is really involved in AI. I'm in a business that develops data centers across the U.S. And so this property could very well become 100% automated in the next 6 years. Meaning it won't even require anybody. So I just recognize, I understand what you're talking about, you know, employee, and I support that. You know, I was a long time, as some people know, I was the town attorney in Crestview for almost 15 years, and I support affordable housing. I think it's a big deal, and we're lacking, but this isn't gonna create any really employees. So that's why it's so low at this point, so thanks.
Great. Any further comments, question? So would you prefer, I guess we can, the draft covers the 1-year provision in the ordinance, so we can just stop the ordinance. That would include a 1-year extension.
That would include a 1 year with the potential for the applicant to come back and request additional years if needed.
Okay.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 21, series of 2023 on first reading, and set the public hearing and second reading for September 26, 2023.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Please call the roll, Pam.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle.
The ordinance as written, yes, 1 year.
Thank you. Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate your
Mitch.
time.
Thanks.
Good luck with it.
Thanks for all you do.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have many employees, and the ones you do are all named Chip.
Yeah. Interesting. See where that goes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes us to item number 6F, public hearing and second reading ordinance number 19. Ordinance Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the Public Works Manual to reinsert structural soils requirements. So, this is a public hearing. So, James, why don't you tee it up, and
Sure.
if anybody has any comments.
Thank you. This is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance that would approve of an amendment to the town's Public Works Manual to add requirements and specifications for structural soils back into the Public Works Manual, as we detailed at the last meeting. In 2022, we did a complete overhaul of the Public Works Manual, and the language related to structural soils inadvertently fell out of the manual. So this is just an amendment to put it back in. The town arborist felt it was appropriate to put it back in the Public Works Manual. Structural soils are a specific soils formula that allows for trees that are in close proximity to hardscape be able to thrive without uplifting the adjacent hardscape. And it's been used significantly in Willits Town Center as well as downtown here, and it's been successful. So the town staff and the town arborist would recommend these proposed amendments. The P&Z also was supportive of the proposed amendments. So this evening, staff would recommend taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and then providing council discussion, and we would recommend approving the ordinance on second reading.
Hey, thank you. Comments, discussion from council, motion? Public hearing, that's right. Is there anyone in the audience like to address council on this item? Anyone calling in? Hearing none.
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt ordinance number 19, series of 2023 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Clerk?
Absolutely. Let's begin with Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Angela Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item and final item before we go to executive session is item 6G, resolution number 31, series of 2023, resolution of Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving a donation agreement for a temporary donation of a sculpture. Michelle, this sounds intriguing.
This is intriguing. The town was approached by a member of the community, Kara Barnes, at the opportunity for a long-term donation of this art sculpture created by Joe Spear entitled Enlightened Seeker. It is approximately 5 feet long and at the highest point 9 feet tall. There is a picture of the sculpture in your packet. The proposed donation agreement is a long-term loan that allows the town to use the art piece as recommended by BPAC throughout the year and to support our arts capital improvement plan. There is no end date to the agreement, but there is a clause that should the Barnes request their piece back, we have 90 days notice. It's a very friendly agreement. BPAC has reviewed the proposed donation agreement and suggested that we install the piece in Merino Park at the end of Midland Spur during the grand, we're calling it the grand opening and event of finishing the spur to honor the piece so that it doesn't just show up, but it's part of an event. So we're looking at that on August 29th if you agree to accept this agreement.
August 29th or
September
September?
29th.
Yes, that'd be
thank
right. Beautiful piece. I'm sorry, who's the artist again?
Joe Spear. He has a website with lots of his other work on there.
Yeah, beautiful.
And if the Barnes family should want their piece back, who is responsible to pay for that transport?
They have agreed to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the town will be paying to move it here?
It didn't cost anything to move it.
It was pretty simple. We were able to pick it up and, with our backhoe and then put it on a trailer, just make sure it was strapped down.
Nice.
It was sitting on concrete piers essentially, so we'd probably do something similar here. I think we need to we need to work with BPAC, but also Public Works on the location. So if we do put it in Merino Park, we need to consider snow storage and sort of that element that winter will be coming. So if it's maybe temporarily there, or if there's a place to tuck it so that we can kind of accomplish both, that would be awesome. But it's could be a nice complement to our growing art collection.
Beautiful piece, yeah.
Alternatively, if we decide that we no longer want it, and we just give it back to them, or what's the? I feel like we ended up with those 5 Momo or whatever they were called.
Momo.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
For quite a bit longer than we had necessarily wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to make sure we don't get ourselves into a scenario where like
The one thing I'll say, unlike those that were very delicate and large, this one, should we decide, we don't want it for whatever reason anymore, it would be easy enough for us to store it out of the way, and then, potentially work with them to gift it. I know another alternative was for Carbondale to take it, but because they were part of this community, they wanted it here.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great addition. My concern is several years down the road, if we want to rotate in some new art or something like that. I just don't want to get us into a position where we're don't have options.
Yeah.
The donation agreement as written gives us the ability to terminate it with 90 days notice to the donor, and then we would give it back.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt resolution number 31, series of 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I would also just like to thank BPAC for doing this. I know
Yeah.
in original, this was the thing we went over years and years ago about not wanting donations, and I think it's awesome that they work through this, and hopefully this encourages some other cool art donations to the town that we can use this as a template. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, move the town council enter executive session for a conference with our attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions in accordance with CRS 24-6-402 4B, more specifically to discuss public access easements, Ridge Road, and to discuss an initiative petition submitted by Ted Guy and Laura Main.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, our regular meeting is concluded. We've got a